Trust the profits. It is the formula here. We're talking about the Southwest Stakes, doing a full field rundown. It's going to be this Saturday, the 25th, coming up. We've already had a preview from Colin Sheehan and Riders Up Tim. So I'm giving you my perspective here in the standard full field rundown, taking a look back. Um, the past 10 years, what has the Southwest Stakes produced? Well, last year it produced our Derby winner. Mystic Dan was the winner in the Southwest Stakes. He ran a 143.67, and I do want to say that that was in the mud, making that time all the more impressive. He also beat Just Steel, Liberal Arts, who are horses that went on to run in the Kentucky Derby as well. The year before that, we got Arabian Night winning. Oh, and I do want to say, I'll get back to that in a second here. But year before that, Arabian Night ran away with it with a 5.5 length win over Red Route 1 and Frosted Departure. Jace's Road, 17th place in the Derby, but he was another Derby horse that was in that race. Year before that, Bob Baffert winning again with Newgrange with a 1.5 length win over Barber Road. In what I would call a less stellar pack, but it was a deep race, had 12 horses in that race. You can see that those two races, Arabian Night, Newgrange, did not produce Derby horses with the first place wins, mainly because of the Baffert suspension, but also those horses never got transferred to other barns, had issues coming up along the way, et cetera, et cetera. For that, we had Essential Quality, Silver Prospector, Super Steed, My Boy Jack, One Liner, Sudden Breaking News, and Far Right. Couple of those horses in there getting fifth place finishes. Solid for the Derby, I would say, when you project out just a horse getting first place in this race, projecting them to the Derby. You still get a lot of NAs, though. You get Silver Prospector, Super Stud in there. I did highlight here any horse that got a sub 144. Not necessarily saying that that leads you to the Derby, even though, because 3 of them did not apply, did not enter into the Derby. So let's move on. Let's see what we do have this year. Yeah, so this year we got 10 horses entered in. Bob Baffert does have a horse in here for those who are interested. It is January 25th. As I said before, the stakes, the prize money here for this grade 3 race, $1 million. So it's been going up, I want to say year after year. I want to say last year it was 800,000. This year's 1 million. It is at Oaklawn Park, 8.5 furlongs on dirt. Why don't we start digging into those horses, starting with Gaming, the Bob Baffert horse. This is a horse I'm very conflicted on. Going into the BC Juvenile, this was my number 1 horse. I tracking this horse from the 2 races going into that race, and I thought that this looked like the best of the Baffert horses up to that point. Thought he was better than Citizen Bull. As you can see there for my third bull, it's second place to Citizen Bull by 1.5 lengths, pretty much following Citizen Bull the whole way, never making up a whole lot of ground at all, just sort of following him into the finish line. After that, just not to say it's getting worse and worse. It's a third place finish at Los Alamitos, but he was expected to win that. He looked like the best Baffert horse. Getaway car set the pace. He was there stalking it fairly close, but so was journalism. Journalism took over. Gaming did not. Gaming fell back for third place in that, losing by 6 lengths to journalism in that one. That was journalism's day more than it was Gaming. And to be fair, I mean, it was completely set up for Gaming to be his race, 5-horse race, another Baffert horse being a little bit of the rabbit, if you will. So I'm conflicted on Gaming because at one point I thought that this was the horse, winner of the Del Mar Futurity, working his way up, closing out over McKenzie Street. But we also don't look too favorably upon McKenzie Street anymore. I think that's a horse that's been getting beaten since we've seen him early on last year, probably losing favor in the power rankings. Juan J. Hernandez up on Gaming. Where will he end up? Publisher from Steve Asmussen. Got Eric Asmussen on this one. Has yet to win a race. Second in his last maiden special, 110K, 8.5 furlong race at Oaklawn, starting 2 lengths behind the pace set by American Promise, eventually ending up 1.5 behind American Promise. I put American Pace there. It's supposed to be American Promise. Previous to that, a third place showing in an 8.5 furlong maiden special weight. So he's running the distance, just not getting the wins. Steve Asmussen must be thinking that there's something about this horse. Maybe this is the time. Sometimes, they're up to the challenge. Race hasn't gone their way. Races haven't gone their way, but they might have a shot at a stakes race here. Could also be a place where horse bumps up to the stakes level, comes back down, breaks his maiden right after that. So we'll see what happens with Publisher. Looking very grumpy there. My goodness. Monet's Magic. hmm 2 wins in 6 races, the last two, actually. Um, Allowance optional claimer at Oaklawn going a mile there, starting out 6 to 7 lengths back, closing for half a length win over Heavenville. And before that, 120K maiden special weight at 8.5 furlongs at Churchill, starting 5 lengths back, closing by the top of the stretch for a win by a neck over Kalahari Dreams. American Promise also in that one, getting fourth place. This is a closer here. This is a little bit of a deep closer, I would say. Has already shown good ability to be closing out in those 2 races. Good form here. Monet's Magic. Mm, that's a horse that I want to speak about, but we'll get to there eventually. Tiztastic. Steve Asmussen with Keith Asmussen on the mount here, coming from Tiz the Law, 2-1-1 in 5 races. Last time out, third place at the Kentucky Jockey Club. Starting out near the pace in that one, maintaining for a while, and then 4 length loss to First Resort at the end of that race. At the street sense, a second place finish, but did get a little bit of a bumpy start there. Settled in at about 3 lengths behind the pace and closed to get second, 5 lengths off of Sovereignty, who had a really good race that day. Sandman also in this race was in that race, ran third in that one, having a little bit of a similar start. It's difficult for me to decouple these two, Sandman and Tiztastic, as we're gonna get closer to the end here. But yeah, Tiztastic been doing well so far, definitely in a good spot here, and I think also getting good value here because I believe he's starting the day 10-1 morning line. Render Judgment. It's a horse that both riders up Tim and I have been very intrigued by. Got third at the Gun Runner, starting off 2 lengths behind, 2 lengths off the lead, but then fell back quite a ways. Built really did take over in that race. Render Judgment really had no answer. Got fifth at the Kentucky Jockey Club, starting off 5 lengths off the lead, but finished 8 behind First Resort. This is a Ken McPeak horse from Blame. Uh, I would say the bloom's starting to fall off on Render Judgment. It's still very early for a lot of these horses. This will be his 5th race in the money 75% of the time so far. But, this is a pretty deep race with some really good horses. It's difficult for me to find a spot for Render Judgment, given what we've seen the last couple times out. Sandman, like I said, a bit coupled with Tiztastic. Difficult for me to remove these two from each other. They're very close. 2-0-1 in 5 races, winner of an allowance optional claimer, going 8 furlongs in that one. Starting off 2 to 3 lengths off of the pace, a little bit further back, but had a nice little close down the stretch for almost a 2-length win over Big Boat. Got some experience at Oaklawn there. Third at Street Sense. Again, starting in the 3 to 4 lengths behind the pace sort of area after a bad start. Again, similar to Tiztastic. Closing to be 5 lengths behind Sovereignty, just a hair ahead behind Tiztastic in that one. And Sandman in this race opening up at 5-1 morning line. He's got that tap at blood in him, so he's gonna dig the distance. And moving on, clicking the slides. Oh, what do we got here? We got Patch Adams. Uh, whoops. Let me back up a skosh there. Yeah, Patch Adams. Let me dive into it here.
Patch Adams.
Yeah, okay. We don't have a producer. I was fumbling around on the button on that one. But Patch Adams, 2 races, both in the money finishes in those 2 races, both maiden special weight races. Winner second time out, going 7 furlongs in a 120K maiden special. I'm really digging the time that he finished in this one and the lengths. Pushing the pace early on, 3 lengths ahead going into the stretch, and then just completely blowing the doors off the place with a 10+ length victory. When this happens, I often look at the times to see, okay, well, how close to the record was he, the track record? Sometimes they can be 3 to 4 seconds off. So then you say, okay, the field was weak. Even if there were like 8 to 10 other horses in the field was weak. But in this case, at 120, I believe the record at the track is somewhere around 120.33 or 120.44. So Came very close to setting the track record that day. Flavian Brad Cox putting those 2 names together, almost got myself in trouble. Into Mischief, um, this is a deadly combination right here. So that race right there is why a lot of us that trust the Prophets have really pushed Patch Adams way up on our list, even though he has yet to run in a stakes race. See, the evidence is there that this could be a pretty special horse on the Derby Trail. So going into this race, even though he's a little bit greener than the rest of the patch, he's got that raw talent that a lot of us are getting really excited about. And also El Hombre's not his favorite film, Patch Adams, but I think it's his 4th favorite film. If you ever see him, start quoting Patch Adams, he'll enjoy it. American Promise. 6 races, 3 times in the money. All 6 races made special weight. The last one was the one where he broke. Going 8.5 furlongs in that one. Gate to wire, beating Publisher by 1.5 lengths in that one. A 144.81, fairly respectable. It's interesting that it took him this long to break his maiden. Also interesting, Justify on one side and Tap It on the other side. So I mean, in terms of bloodlines, this horse is just full of them. So very interesting play here, American Promise. I don't have him super high, but I would say this is a horse you got to keep your eye on for future races, and also just to see how he does here, running in something that's not a maiden race. Bon temps. So 3 races, 0 times in the money, 4th at the Smarty Jones, starting out within 2 lengths of the lead, but then fading back 5 lengths back of Cole Battle, ran 146. I'm just putting that out there to show you that finishing 4th place behind Cole Battle with a 146 neighborhood, 8.5 furlongs is nothing to write home about. So Bon Temps, as much as I would love to, pull out some New Orleans love here, I just can't see it for this horse. This is going to be an insta toss for me. Finally, Speed King. 2 races. Last one out was the 2nd place finish at the Springboard Mile behind Cole Battle, horse we just mentioned, setting the pace early on, but getting overtaken by the end by half a length to Cole Battle in that one. Not too bad, not too bad. Still holding on, unable to hold off the presser at the end there, the closer. Winner the first time out, going 6 furlongs in a maiden special, going gate to wire by 2 lengths over Kalahari Dreams. This is an interesting horse based on his running style. I mean, this is going to be a total pace setter type horse here. At 8.5 furlongs, I'm guessing maybe a pace and fade. Could be a horse that rabbits and tries to pull a horse out there. What is Gaming going to do when going up against Speed King? What are some of these other horses that are a little bit more pace forward going to be doing? There's a few of them in here that could get tied up in a pace like Speed King. So it could open the door for a couple other closers later on. But let's move on to the end here. What do we got? My safe play here is Patch Adams. Again, I feel like this is a special horse, could be Brad Cox's best. This is after we just saw Brad Cox win the Lecomte Stakes with Disco Time. My value play here is Tiztastic. I think you're getting 10-1 on Tiztastic right now, and this is a horse that's already been through a number of stakes races, graded stakes races, and has looked pretty good in those, at least in terms of finishing in the money. So, I mean, you got to include Tiztastic, I believe, anytime you're setting up some sort of um, a deeper play here, exacta, trifecta, you got to consider Tiztastic. And then it gets difficult for me. If I'm adding Tiztastic, I gotta add Sandman because those 2 are just so super close to each other. Gaming is the tricky one for me here. Gaming, because I talked about it at the start here. There's a few things playing against Gaming. I almost wanted to leave him off my top 4 and throw in Monet's Magic, who is an interesting closer for me, has run the distance, has done so successfully. Obviously at a lower level than Gaming. Gaming, 2nd place at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So just based on that, I got to include Gaming in here. But there are certain things playing against him. If he gets wrapped up in a pace battle, I worry about what could happen, especially after what journalism did. And then this is his first time running outside of California. And what if it's muddy? What if it's cold at Oaklawn? We've been getting some interesting weather. I don't know if that's going to set up well for a Bob Baffert horse like Gaming. horse that's used to getting on that pace, used to warmer weather. How's he going to handle the mud? I have a bit of concern over that for gaming, but he's still going to be in my key there just because he is a Bob Baffert horse. He's on my list for so long. Part of me does want to take him out and put Monet's Magic in and get tricky with a 15-1, but I got to stay true here and say, okay, well, we've gone this far with gaming. I've got some reservations. Are they enough to take him out? Possibly not. But I'm curious to see what you guys say. Who do you have in your top two or three? Is Patch Adams your number one, like he is mine, or are you more of a gaming fan, or do you see another horse out there who's going to be your deep play? Curious to hear what all those thoughts are from you guys. Hit us up in the comments, and as always, gamble responsibly. See ya.